Thank you so much, Caroline Okonji, for that special report. That is much we can take because right now it's time for us to tee off the discussion segment on this morning on ITV. It's all about May 29 inauguration, matters arising. And I know that you might have heard one or two things about what some persons are planning in that particular day. Don't forget the warning of the DSS, stern warning. No protest on that day. They gave good reasons for that. To throw more light on this, I have a human rights activist, a political analyst, public affairs commentator. Join me to welcome Curtis Obebo. Welcome to TMI, Tuesday's edition.
Thank you very much, Winston. My viewers at home, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me.
All right, of course, Kadiri will be joining us on this particular interview. He'll be throwing his own questions to really get to know the minds of my analysts here in the studio. If it's in tandem with what many Nigerians are thinking. Well, Curtis, May 29, they say sacrosanct. And we heard about the report of the DSS saying that they've unraveled plots and plans by some persons to come scuttle the inauguration day, and they will not have it. They want parents, guardians to talk to their children and words to stay clear of the streets because of the importance of that day. But a senior advocate of Nigeria came out to say, look, for us to really solve all this situation, they should try to speed up the judicial process. At least all the judgment, all the cases, all petitions should be handled before May 29, quoting Agbakuba. What do you have to say about that?
All right, thank you very much. Starting from the proposed inauguration, like you said, is very, very sacrosanct. The Nigeria Constitution provides for it, and I don't think at this level there is nothing that is going to stop the inauguration, except otherwise, like you just mentioned, the judicial, there is a judgment from the Court of Competent Jurisdiction stating otherwise. So, over time, Nigeria has gone through this process of election and inaugurating a new government. Just that we have never had it bad as it is now over time. And again, the assertion of the DSS, to me, it's just to set fears into the mind of the people, probably to discourage those who want to express their displeasure. Because protest, to me as a human rights activist who is very conversant with the provisions of Nigeria law, it's a fundamental right of every Nigerian. Nigerians have right to protest 24 hours of the day, 31 days of the month, and 365 days of the year. It's a fundamental right, irrespective of any given issue. So it's a right, and if an inauguration is going to take place, I don't see any reason why a mere protest will stop inauguration, where there are security personnel all over the place. And I also think there's no right-thinking Nigerian who will also want to lead a protest to disrupt such inauguration. It is not possible. So to me, DSS is using it as an avenue to see how they discourage citizens from engaging in their statutory rights as citizens.
All right, Joseph, I believe you've been listening to what his analysis is all about. Do you have a question or two to throw at him?
Yeah, I followed his comment, his opening comment. He believes that people have right to protest every day of the year. But you know, of late, there are issues regarding protest hijack. We have seen that in some parts of the country. And here in Abuja, we've also seen that, where people are going about protesting and also having security agents with them to give them some kind of protection. But some hoodlums came, took advantage of the protest, and some people were left injured. And you know, in these kind of issues, where you have for and against, what the DSS has done is about the best. And so I'd like to ask the guest, Mr. Cortez, why can't people just follow through what the Constitution says about election and swearing in? It's one thing for a process to be concluded, and then the next thing for anyone that is not happy with the process to go to court. Why would you go to court and at the same time you are protesting?
All right, going to court is provided for in the law, and protest is also provided for in the law. So protest can never be jettisoned in our democratic system. It's a right, it's the bedrock of our democracy. Yes, not everybody that can go to courtroom, for instance. As an individual, I am not a member of a political party. I am not enabled by the law, for instance, to go to court on this subject matter, to either sue the INEC or challenge the results, as the case may be. But the law provides that I can protest. So protesting while the case is in court, it's a two different thing. Protest is simply, I don't know what, I don't know the perception we have about protest. I don't know how people see a protest. But it's just a mere expression of displeasure. It's just a mere expression of your feelings. That is what it is. Even people, we have protested in the courtroom. We have seen a situation whereby a judgment given by a judge in the court was inconsistent, or we perceived that is proportional to what was expected as provided in the law. Right from the courtroom, we protested. So protest has nothing to do with a case in court, in as much as it doesn't dabble into preempting the expectation of the court. So while the case is going on in court, protest is allowed in as much as it's a peaceful protest.
All right, now he talked about hijacking the
but how can you,
Abuja, you know, he mentioned even in Abuja that some protests were like, you know, hijacked. Now, what do you have to say about that?
Yes, I have involved in a protest. I have led a protest or take part in a protest that was hijacked. A protest cannot be hijacked except the government or government agencies or those in government have interest in such protests. We have seen it play out.
But still, you just can't ascertain it because we have other interest group in this kind of situation we're talking about. Not even the government, because the government wants a smooth transition. But like what the DSS said, they're going to finger some politicians, some key players that are behind this or want to really instigate this protest.
That is not true. Some of us have been engaging in engaging government or engaging in civil activism for about maybe half a decade or 2 decades. Protests cannot be hijacked. They always have this negative perception, or perhaps to blackmail the protesters, that is being sponsored by either politicians or the opposition parties. It is not always so. There are several genuine protests out there that you see. And again, why would ordinary citizens who also feel the pains of those protests who want to hijack the protest? It is only those who are those who are in government, or like, as it were, the politicians, who may likely have interest and want to use the process to make case for themselves that will want to infiltrate the protest. We have seen it play out during NSAS. Why the NSAS protest in Edo State here was peaceful in moving forward. It was a peaceful protest. From nowhere, someone came up and started shooting sporadically on the protesters, killing one instantly and injuring over 20 persons in the process. And you want to ask, who is that person that led that group to attack the protesters? Who sent them? That's the question we should be asking, not necessarily saying they want to hijack. Who is hijacking the protests? Is it my grandfather in the village? Is it my mother or my grandmother in my mother's village? Certainly not. Who are these persons that always hijack protests, that have interest in this process? Did you allow Nigeria to express their feelings without unnecessarily want to infringe on their fundamental right, without unnecessarily want to say fears? And that is why they are there as security agencies, to provide security. That is why over time, when the civil society from our end, if we want to engage in protest, we formally or informally inform the security agencies that we are coming out to protest, not to get approval from them because it is already provided in Nigeria Constitution, but for them to provide security.
Okay.
To ensure that it is not hijacked. But we have seen over time that in the presence of the security agencies, they will still be attacking protesters. That is where we have problem in this country. So the DSS should provide security for those that want to protest peacefully, not to stop them from protesting. Stopping protesters from protesting is an infringement on the fundamental right. We have seen a situation here where protesters protested here in Edo State around the King Square. They were locked up by the security agencies not to protest, and the case went to ECOWAS court. And we won the case at the ECOWAS court, and a fine was issued against the Edo State government and the Nigeria police force for disallowing the Nigerians to engage in peaceful protests.
Okay, now, Curtis, now you just hold on, Kadri, hold on, want to go for a break. When we return, we'll continue with this discussion still on May 29 inauguration. Matters arising, don't go away. Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you just joined us, this is TMI on our independent television network. Yes, Abuja and of course Benin. It is all about the May 29 inauguration. Matters arising. Joining us right now in the studio is a legal practitioner, human rights activist, public affairs commentator. Johnny, welcome, Barrister Gabriel Ehigato. Welcome to TMI Tuesday's edition.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, Joseph Kadri, over to you. Okay, Joseph, I believe you have questions for the guest in the studio in Benin. We're having a situation right now with the audio. Not to worry, our engineers, they are on 8. But in the meantime, let me come to you, Barrister Gabriel Ehigato. From what Curtis said, he said that we have the right to protest 247 and of course 365 days in a year. But the DSS saying that on that particular day, May 29, protests will be prohibited because of the sensitive nature of what is happening in the country. What's your take on that?
Well, people have right to make a protest. They have right to put up protest. They have right to express their grievances in any way. But we must do it peacefully. The protest, nobody stopping. I think let's get it clear. Nobody stopping anybody for protesting. You have right to protest, no doubt about that. But there are rules that guide protest. There are laws that formulate the exercise of protest. So nobody can actually stop anybody from protesting. In as much as it doesn't involve violence, in as much as it doesn't involve rascality and what have you. So everybody have a right. It's even enshrined in our constitution. You have right to express your grievances. You have right to protest, either in the way of demonstration or in the way of letters or what have you, or any other means, But what we do not want is people turning the protest to a violent situation. And I think that's what security agencies are be scared of. People trying to protest that the inauguration should not hold. As a matter of fact, protests cannot actually even stop the inauguration. I think we are even overblowing the whole thing out of proportion. The president-elect has been declared elected. And anybody that is aggrieved, that they are not happy about it, should go to court and do the needful. And now that the case is already before the court, I don't think it is proper for anybody to naked the court. You need to wait for the court, let the court give his own judgment and his own ruling, and then probably that could, reduce the level of tension. But where I have a problem is this: the particular persons who won the election are also the one also clamoring for fight against or resistance or protest, and it's amazing. We would have expected that those who are protesting are going to be those who probably do not have a fallout, who probably are victims of the fallout of the election, not those who won the election. So I wonder what the party that won the election is actually protesting for. For me, I think DSS and other security agencies are overblowing the whole thing out of proportion. The inauguration of the president-elect takes place at the Eagle Square. And we're going to have various security agencies. We're going to have the police, we're going to have the Navy, and what have you. We're going to secure that day and secure the venue. So it's going to be very difficult for anybody to actually target violently into the Eagle Square, where the presidential inauguration is being carried out. So for me, people have the right to protest, they have the right to express their grievances, but they shouldn't turn it to any violent character.
All right, now what guarantee can one really have that these protesters, knowing fully that some of them are clamoring for interim government, will not turn it into a violent scenario? Cortex.
Yes, I as an ordinary citizen of this country cannot actually give a guarantee. The onus lies on our security agencies and the government as it were under government agencies. How do I mean? It is left for the security agencies to provide security during the inauguration, and also to provide security for the protesters, because over time the security agencies on their whole have equally aggravate the anger of the protesters during a protest due to the way the security agencies engage the protesters. The security agencies over time have not been diplomatic enough to engage these protesters and probably mitigate their anger. They rather instigate and aggravate their anger. Another thing we have seen that lead protests to violence. Over time, we've seen the situation whereby the Nigeria police force have anti-riot police. But today you see the SARS, as it were, the tactical team, or the police generally going to confront protesters with live ammunitions. Those are the things that causes or that instigate or that aggravate the anger of the protesters. You are going to meet a protester who is peacefully expressing his or herself, and you are going with a gun.
But he said right now, since the matter is in court to be wrong, let me use his word right now, naked the court.
No, I mentioned that earlier. I mentioned it earlier. In as much as the protest does not preempt the courts, like I also said, I am not a party in the suit in the case in court. I have my own right to protest. I have my own right to protest. Every Nigerian cannot go to court on a particular matter. If I have my own reservation and I cannot go to court, I can come on ITV, I can use any platform, any medium to express myself. That is not a violation of our law. It's only when you now in the process of expressing yourself, you infringe on the right of others. In the process of expressing yourself, you engage in destroying properties and endangering the life of others. That is where you violate the law. But by mere coming out to carry black card or write letters or address press, you have not in any way violated Nigeria law, not even the president of this country, not even the Inspector General of Police or the commander of the Nigerian Army that can stop Nigerian and other citizens for protest. It's a fundamental right. The city, they should have ensured
we're talking about national
yes,
right now.
You can help me to interpret. Why are they crying woefully? They should have ensured a peaceful election. They would have ensured a transparent and a credible election. We've never had it bad like this in the history of Nigerian elections or democracy.
Okay.
They should have allowed a peaceful election so Nigeria will not have reasons to protest.
I will come back to you, Curtis, but I believe that Kadri do have a question or two to throw out the guests here in the studio. Kadri, over to you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Wilson. Curtis has spoken to an extent, and I'd like to raise some issues that we know is enshrined in the Constitution. The Constitution made it clear that after an election, the only option you have is to go to court. That is the only option you have. Go to court. I have not seen any part of that constitution that says after an election you should go to the street. So there are things that I think we should place so that some persons that are innocent, some persons that they just believe what you are saying is right, want to go to the street. And I also like to say that national security supersedes any other thing. National security is paramount. And so I'd like to ask Curtis, having made this point, that if you are going to protest and you believe you had the right to protest, and another man believes that, no, I have the right to free movement, you cannot stop me from moving in as much as you want to protest. What is the possibility that as you are protesting, you will not stop another man who wants to go about his business without hindrance? This is where the issue is.
All right.
All right, quickly. First, you mentioned, Mr. Kadiri, you mentioned that the law provide that after election, that the only thing provided for is to go to court. And it did not further also say that after election you cannot protest. Is there any law that says after election you cannot protest? No. And again, let me remind us, there is a section that is titled, I think chapter 4 of the Nigerian Constitution, starting from section 36, is entitled Fundamental Rights. Fundamental, that is the most important of all. The most important of all, that is fundamental right. And it provides for protest. And there are no limitations to that aspect. So that means during election, or before election, during election, after election, citizens have right to protest. I haven't said that. I also mentioned earlier, when I talked about you protesting without infringing on the right of others, maybe right to movement and all that. That is why we have security agencies. It is not left for the security agencies if those engaged in the protest cannot 100% conduct it in a manner that will not infringe on the right of others. For instance, if protesters are processing or in a procession, it is not left for the security agencies to conduct them in a way that other road users will have passage on the road. That is what it is.
Okay, now let me come in here. We have a legal practitioner in the house talking about the Constitution. After election, you have to go to court. That's what the Constitution provides. And now he's not saying that it's not written also that you cannot protest after an election. Can you make sense out of these two points they've raised?
Well, the law is a two-sided coin. We must understand that fact. The Nigerian Constitution is an encompassing constitution that contains the rights, the liberty of citizens. Everybody has the right to protest. No doubt about that. And there's no date stipulated that this must be a particular day where you should protest, whether on Sunday or Monday, whether a public holiday or not a public holiday. Just as I said earlier, I think our security agencies have a very big problem. First of all, there's a lot of lacuna in communications and the way they deal with ordinary citizens, which is very appalling, which is actually one of the causes that have actually, over time, caused bigger crises, trying to blow situations out of proportion. The same DSS were the first set of persons who made the claim that people are trying to disrupt the inauguration of the president. And I want to say it again, just the way I said it earlier, that nobody can try to disrupt the inauguration of the president. It's not even compulsory that the inauguration of the presidency must be done at the Eagle Square. I mean, you can even take it to the presidential villa Aso Rock. You can take it elsewhere. It's not compulsory. That must be done here for security reasons. So if our security agency feel that the protest is going to distort the inauguration of the president-elect, they want to take it away from there. They want to create a better means to ensure that there is tight security standard. So I wonder why people are scared of protest, why you are not allowing people to protest on that day. I mean, it's an infringement on their rights. So I think the government of the day need to call the security agencies to the table, and there need to be a proper discussion on the arrangement. I mean, you can barricade various entrances or regions that are close to the what is it called now, the Eagle Square. It's not compulsory over there. It can hold elsewhere. There are other places. For example, when you pass the Nigerian Law School exam, the proper place where the court will ban the swearing of lawyers take place normally will be the International Conference Center in Abuja. But for over time, for security reasons, it has not hold here. So then they take it to the Eagle Square. So that they take it to the headquarters of the Nigerian Law School at Buhari. They can even take, most of them, they have even taken it to the body of bench secretariat. So to me, it's not compulsory must hold here. But if it must hold here, then our security agencies need to be on top of their game. They need to ensure that people, even if people are protesting, it is done in the purest of sanity. They need to ensure that there is tight security around the Eagle Square. If not, then maybe the fear of the unknown will happen.
Kadri, you heard his assertion.
I heard him, but just to ask him this quickly, is he saying that our security agencies, the DSS, the police, of course the Army, NIA, name them, is he saying that they cannot give an advisory?
Over to you. If they cannot give an advisory.
Of course they can actually do that. They can do that. But what we are trying to look at here is the right of the citizens. You cannot stop a right of a particular citizen just because you want to restrict another right of another citizen. I mean, just as I said, the law is dicey. The law is a two-coin side. You must look at it from the other angle. Also turn it over and look at it from the other angle. You cannot say because you want to inaugurate the president, people should not go on protest. You cannot say because the subject matter is already before the law court, people should not go on protest. As a matter of fact, we see people are not offended that Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is the APC presidential candidate, won the election. People are offended by the way the election was conducted. A lot of persons are offended because a lot of persons were disenfranchised. There are a lot of violence. There are a lot of irregularities.
But that is the place of the judiciary for them to go there.
But I don't want to take us far to the judiciary. I'm a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm not a court. But what I'm saying, in as much as we are ready to go with the inauguration of the presidential candidate, we should not infringe on people's rights. We should not deny people's rights. I don't expect the Nigerian Army or the police to start using weapons on peaceful protesters, or using water cannon or water view. I mean, if the NIM, the DSS, the Nigerian police are actually on top of their game, they should provide top security, top notch. That's what they should do. Provide a standard of security, not resisting people from protesting. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It shows our democracy is here on the ground floor. So people have a right to protest, as far as their protest does not affect the legality or the issues of court. As far as their protest does not affect the inauguration process. Even if people carry black card out there and say, no, we will not allow inauguration to take place, they don't have the power. Inauguration of the president is purely a governmental affair. That's why you have to set up a transition committee. So it's purely a governmental affair. I mean, so you resisting people from protesting, fighting people from protesting, stopping people from protesting, it's as those that are using bazooka to kill mosquito.
Okay.
It's waste of resources and waste of time.
All
so
right, now,
the government has a right to go on with the inauguration, whether people protest or not.
Okay, now question to you, Court, is talking about protest. Will there be a must for them to protest on that particular day? No, for that day is sacrosanct to Nigerians. That is all one had. He talked about your right shouldn't infringe on another person's right. All right. Now, don't think the protest may infringe also on the rights of ordinary citizens that really want to enjoy that. They were talking about rights here. And of course, Kari talked about, a kind of a warning, let's say an announcement to the people that this is what we've discovered from intelligence report for there to be peace, sanity in that particular day. Please, for now, no protests.
All right, before I come to your question, let me first add to or respond to the question Mr. Kaderi asked, or rather what he said, that don't the security agencies have right to play kind of advisory role?
Yes.
Yes, thank God they say advisory role. And it is one thing for you to give advice, and it's the second thing for the advice to be adhered to. Because they are not in position to give an order. It is just an advice. And Nigeria citizens is not, they cannot be compelled to adhere to such an advice. It's only an order, for instance, an order of a court, or in a situation whereby the president declares a state of emergency that can be compulsorily adhered to. So Nigerians are at liberty to either adhere to the advice or ignore the advice. Then you ask must they protest on that day? It is not compulsory that citizens protest that day, but it is necessary for every Nigerian who seem not to be satisfied with the process of the election and what have been so far done about the election. So if Nigerians, it still boils down to the right. If all Nigerians wake up and say they want to go to front of Eagle Square to protest that day, nothing will stop it. That is the provisions of the law. That is the position of the law. They cannot stop it. Then again, infringing on the right of citizens. Yes, one cannot 100% take that away from protest. But it is not also left, like I said before, for the security agencies to ensure these protesters engage in their protests in a way that it will not infringe on the right of others. Let me make reference to some time ago when we protested against the privatization of a specialist hospital. While we were there, a group of boys, thugs, came to attack us while we were at the front of the central hospital, engaging the government, expressing ourselves. And it was a show of force for more than 2-3 hours. Even military came, they couldn't pass. We couldn't give them passage because the thugs were trying to disperse us. The security agencies were there, they couldn't do anything. They were looking at us. What the brand is for those that are for government and those that were there engage the government. You see, these are likely issues that causes more tension during a protest.
All right, now we have a question from our Abuja Network Center.
Yes, quickly. Let me ask this. Both of them. Anyone can answer, but it's important we get this clear. That when you are protesting for a common interest, I have hardly seen the security agencies giving warning or giving an advisory so long as it's common interest. For example, if you are going to protest for hike in pump price, I stand to be corrected. Security agencies will never tell you do not protest. If you are going to protest for, if you are going to protest for hike in electricity tariff or telecom service providers, I also stand to be corrected. That is consumption, and security agencies have little or nothing to advise on that. But you have a situation where just as you have people that are disgruntled, you equally have some other persons that are happy with the outcome. And so for you that is not happy with the outcome, you are going to say, no, this swearing in should not take place. And the man who is happy, the man who believes that vote really counted, you are telling him not to have a say in your protest. It is a bit dicey, it's a bit difficult. And that is what the security agency is telling you, that you cannot protest on this particular issue.
They cannot tell
more
us
so
not to
on that
protest,
particular
Mr.
day,
Kadiri.
you
They
cannot
cannot tell us not to
protest
protest.
because you already hold on. Because you already have some section of the people also preparing to say you cannot go to the street to protest. And what the security agency can do, looking at national security, to say, hey, because of the intels that we have gathered, just as you are preparing to go to the street, other groups are also preparing to stop you. Other groups are also preparing to stop you from going to the street. So the best thing, stay at home. What is wrong in this?
All right. That is just.
Hold on. I need Ehigato to react to that.
Okay, let him react first.
Mr. Kadiri, I think let's make this very clear. If we are saying some persons are going to come on that day to protest against the inauguration of the president-elect, are we also saying that we also be on that group of persons who will also come and protest that the inauguration was hold? I think in all of this, people who seem to be at the center of this whole game is our security agencies. In every rule, there's an exception. Even if maybe it is enshrined in our constitution that the inauguration of a president-elect must be done at the Eagle Square. There are exceptions to rules. There are exceptions to laws. It is not compulsory that the inauguration must take place at the Eagle Square. It can be taken away and probably it can be held at the Aso Rock. You can hold it elsewhere. You can even hold it at the National Assembly Hall. It is not compulsory, must be done at the Eagle Square. The Eagle Square is a public place. If you ever been to Abuja, you will find that the Eagle Square is located in the public domain. It's as good as stopping people.
Barrister,
excuse me, sir. It's as good as stopping people to protest.
Barrister, is that not an infringement?
The governor want to have an
you
inauguration. You can do some inauguration.
Barrister, is that not an infringement? Is that not an infringement on the rights of those that are prepared to be at the Eagle Square?
That is not an infringement of their right, because the people who will be at the Eagle Square merely, apart from government officials, I mean, they are just party members. It's not even compulsory to be at the inauguration. It can be televised. Of course, it's going to be televised. If the security agencies are actually serious, if they are not playing a double game, why are they, making serious announcements and scandalous, threat?
No, you cannot call that scandalous threat.
No, it is scandalous.
You cannot call it that.
Listen,
Barrister, this way I put my foot down.
Okay.
They gave an advisory.
Yes.
Because like what Kadiri said, you will be having a protest and of course counter protest. Some are happy with the outcome.
Yeah.
Some are not happy with the outcome. What about these two factions clash? Yes. That is going to scuttle the inauguration. That's what this is talking about.
Then you not think the solution to that, since people have to protest against the inauguration, the solution is to also have people who will also protest, who will have a counter protest. Is that what we are saying? So the best thing to do is to remove the inauguration from the Eagle Square. I'm not sure the protesters, either for or against, will have their way into the Aso Rock, for example, or the National Assembly. It is common sense. In every law, there's an exception. In every rules, there's an exception.
All right, now just to call it a wrap. Okay, fine, Curtis. Yeah.
Let me comment. Yeah.
Briefly.
Yes. Trying to remember the question he asked. But when he talked about that the security agencies does not interfere in a protest when it's not a national interest, or for instance, when it's a protest against the hike, it is not true. There is no given issues that doesn't embody the interest of the people that we do not show the interest.
All right.
At any given time that we make publications or show any interest on a particular matter to protest, the DSS and the police will always advise us and do everything possible to ensure they stop the protest. I have been invited to the state command on Sunday when they knew that we are going to protest on Monday, they did at all costs. We have been sat over time
on
a panel to ensure
they
dissuade our mind from protesting. So protest is a fundamental right, and they should allow Nigerians to express themselves.
Our time is up. Not sure how that is to really explain this particular issues. Kadir, I really appreciate you from the Abuja Network Center. I really appreciate the quality wrap right now. All right, our viewers out there, this is TMI, talking about ITV network, a combination of both centers, giving you the best in information, education, of course, entertainment. Don't forget the advisory of the DSS. No protests on that day. They gave you good reasons because of the protest and, of course, counter-protest that may lead to a situation that may just be beyond their control. So to let peace reign that day, on that particular day, please advise your children, advise your word to obey the advisory. No need to protest, for peace to reign. Kadri, briefly, your last line on this before calling to wrap on the show.
Yeah, just to follow through, I mean, the DSS has issued an advisory. It is only important for everyone to, adhere to that advice. Stay at home, do not protest, because if you do, you may be infringing on the rights of those that also have other things to do.
All right, thank you so much, Kadri. From the network centers, we really want to say have a wonderful day. Please adhere to the DSS advisory. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your opinion. Tomorrow will be at another time for this one on ITV from our ITV Network Center. Bye for now.